Hello, everyone. I'm Samantha Weisbeck. I'm the owner and general manager here at Dancewear Center, and I'm joined today by a very special guest. I'm going to have them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name's Birgitte Necessary. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm an adult dancer, ballerina wannabe.
Awesome. I love it. Well, cool. So can you, you've already kind of touched on it, but can you tell us a little bit about your dancing journey?
My dancing journey started really late in life, at age 53, which I guess that's not entirely true. My dancing journey started when I was 6 years old, and it ended there too. So I took ballet lessons at 6, had a little recital, have the picture to prove it, and then for some reason, no amount of pleading with my parents ever resulted in more dance lessons. I know it was sad. I That little moment of ballet made me feel like it woke up my little ballerina in me. Like I just, yeah, like every little girl, maybe not every little girl, but certainly many little girls. I just decided from then on I was going to be a ballerina. And it was very disappointing when that journey didn't take place. But my parents were not the easiest people to discuss dreams with. So it wasn't long before I gave up asking because I could tell it was not going to go anywhere. So, but I never gave up thinking that I was a ballerina. So, I had all the Harvey Edwards posters on my wall, and anytime I saw ballet, I was somehow just thought I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to be that one day, with no path to get there. No way to actually make that come true. Um, when I went to college for my PE credit, I took a beginning ballet class because I had to take a semester of PE. So that was beginning ballet. I just remember it as being this terrifying thing. Like, I was scared of the teachers. I was scared of center. I was scared of bar because I didn't know anything, and I don't even know at the time, but I probably came into a class that, had been ongoing for some time. And so there was nobody to take me aside and say, this is how you do a tendu or a plie. And, now we're doing center, and center to me was just this frightening thing. So that little segment, I just remember as being nerve-wracking. But even then, I was also a military brat at the time. I was on a military scholarship in college. So I would walk around in my combat boots and my leg warmers. And I would think somehow that I was a ballerina at the same time that I was going to be in the military. I don't know. It was definitely a very deep disconnect. But of course, life happens, and got out of the military, never got back into ballet. Ended up marrying, ended up divorcing, ended up marrying, and then kids. And nowhere in that journey was there ever a thought that I could become, or could take a ballet class or become an adult dancer. That just wasn't the term that existed in my life at all. So it wasn't until age 53, I took a walk in the woods with a friend of mine, and she said, "Oh yeah, I hike, I ski, I snowshoe, and I dance. I take ballet classes at this local studio." Like, you what? You do what? And it was literally just right down the street from where I'd lived at that time for almost 20 years. Their blinders were on so tight. I didn't even like if I'd seen it, I would have just assumed, oh, for kids. Yeah. So at any rate, but I did decide to go and embarrass myself for the sake of exercise, because my day job is sitting. I'm sitting now. I sit. That's what I do. I'm an academic writer, and so I just sit on my ass. But so I thought, okay, a couple of days a week, I could do this for exercise. It'll be fun. So I did. And wow, I mean, that little 6-year-old woke up like fast. fast. I was literally going from 2 classes a week to 4 or 5 to 8 to 14. And within a year, I was at 14 classes a week. And then within 6 months of starting, I was on point. I was on point. I had been in the point classes prior to that on flat. And so I was training under the auspices of my artistic director. So she was, monitoring my progress. It wasn't just like I randomly went on point. But so she knew I was strong enough and she knew I was developing technique enough. And so, anyway, so then that was it. I was down that hole big time. So that's pretty much how I got into ballet. Haven't
That's
stopped.
so tremendous. I love it. I love it so much.
I
Well,
turned
and
61 this year. Can you believe it? Like it's been like
amazing.
crazy.
It's
So
yeah, it's like amazing. Yeah, I love it because I'm like this, it really is something like you can do and you can do it well
yeah,
at any age. Yeah.
yeah. I had some issues. I didn't realize there were issues until going back and looking at them. When I got on point, I just went with what my teacher recommended in terms of point shoes. They were fine for a while, the first year or two, as I was trying to figure out point. But then, and I realized this later as I started to study point shoes and point shoe fitting, and I realized that they were not proper fit for me. I mean, they fit, they were comfortable, but they were not really sized well. I couldn't get over the box. Um, I couldn't roll through. There were so many problems with that particular shoe. But it wasn't until another 2 years left, so like 4 or 5 years almost in this shoe, until I realized that my equipment was keeping me from progressing, which was a really, I mean, it was kind of a bummer of a thing to figure out because already I feel like my time is limited. Like, I mean, like, when you're this age, it's not like I feel like, I mean, I know I'm going to live forever, right? But at the same time, you got to look at the future and go, well, how much time do I have to do this beautiful thing? Hopefully 20 years, 30 years, I don't know. But at the same time, you're like, dang it, that's like 3 years I could have been progressing. And the way I figured it out was because I was progressing on flat and I was getting my singles pirouettes and I was getting my double pirouettes and then they were consistent and I was still barely hitting a single on point. So I'm like, there's something wrong here because I should be able to transfer what's happening on flat to point, within some reasonable progression. And it wasn't happening. So I was finally in conjunction with some other dancers that we had brought in as guest dancers who looked at my shoes and went, this isn't good. That I realized, yeah, something needs to change. And what needed to change was my equipment. So
Yeah, super important, super important. Um, so can you tell us a little bit about like what your favorite thing about dance is?
um I think my favorite thing about ballet is and not just dance, but specifically ballet, um, is a training methodology. I My job that I do is very tedious. I write indexes for the back of books. So I have to read books. I have to write this very tedious, detailed oriented index. It's a very particular process I go through each time to create the index. And I like that. I thrive on this regularity. So the training methodology of ballet, where we start in first position and we start with plies and then we move to tendus, I groove on that so much. I mean, that just hits me on all the levels. And it's funny because I mean I have performed. I've been in the Nutcracker, I've done recitals. That is not my favorite thing. I mean, maybe I just haven't found the piece or the performance or the something that speaks to me in terms of dancing. But what speaks to me is the training. I love it. I'm addicted to it. I just when I get up to the bar and my teacher says for the how many years have I been doing it? Thousandth time, let's begin in first position. I'm just like I'm transcending. I'm there. I'm just like everything is beautiful in the world. So yeah, that's my
I love
favorite
that.
thing is
Well,
training.
and I
Learning.
love that because it's so like we don't get to perform all that often anyways, and so
Right.
you kind of have to love the training aspect because we do so much more of it. It's so disproportionate. So I
Yeah.
love that for you.
Yeah, I love it too. I mean, there are parts of performing that I enjoy. Um, I would like to get to the point where I enjoy all the parts, like, but I guess part of it has to do with just the way my brain works. I'm slightly neurodivergent. So, the idea of things happening in a specific order is crucial to me feeling comfortable. And something like a performance where I'm relying on other people who could potentially not do the things that they're supposed to, it's a dynamic thing. So it's in that level, it's also frightening to me. So but maybe I will get to a point where it won't be. I don't know.
I still have not found that, so you let me know what tips and tricks you have.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
Great. Let's switch gears a little bit. How has your identity affected you in the dance world?
Um, well, it hasn't affected me a lot in the past, but it's beginning to affect me now. Um, I only came out as non-binary a couple of years ago, and it was actually during the whole COVID thing, and our studio was closed, and then as we started to get back in, as the whole COVID situation became more tenable, then um, I was thinking about training and dancing, and I didn't really associate my identity with what I was doing because I was still doing what I had learned to do just, some few years before. That is, exist within the binary of ballet as a black leotard, black skirt, pink tights ballerina. So, but coming out as non-binary started to make me feel just like a little rough around the edges in terms of like how am I representing the true me, all of me in this modality that I'm so addicted to, that I'm so passionate about. Hang on a second. I'm just going to close my door because my cat came in. She just wants to be part of the interview too. Um, so so now I struggle a little bit with feeling completely represented in the studio. And I also struggle with how much should I struggle with this? Like, I know that sounds weird, but I'm also a pretty chill human being in the sense that I don't tend to get upset over things. And something like my identity, I tend to keep it pretty close. It's not something I wear on my sleeve very much. It's not something I discuss with other people very much. So there's a part of me that is just like, meh, okay, well, that's not represented here, and you're okay, you're still fine, you're still who you are. But recently, we had a trans woman join our studio. And man, I was really surprised at how jealous I got of her. Because here she is being her authentic self in our studio, right? And I'm like, okay, but I don't get that for me, like that. I don't get to be that. Like, because sometimes I go in there and I'm just all about the skirts and the swishier the better, and I love it. And other times I just would love to wear, black tights and a white t-shirt and black shoes. And I don't want my hair in a bun, I want it off my face somehow. But anyway, so that has become more and more of a just an issue, just a twinge, just a something that I deal with. So obviously the thing to do is to go and talk to my artistic director, right, about this situation, which I still haven't worked up the nerve to do. But I'm having some very firm talks with myself about the fact that I feel like I need to do this. So a couple things that come up for me about that. Um, it's easier certainly not easy for her, but it's easier for a trans woman to have their identity in my studio because, in a sense, she's still in the binary. You know, she is herself, she is part of it, which is fine. That's what she wants. But for me to walk in and say, and our dress code is very strict in the studio. So even for the adults, we have a very strict dress code. It's not like walking into P&B and you can wear anything you want to or whatever. So for me to walk up to her and say, well, sometimes I want the female dress code, and sometimes I want to be able to figure out my own dress code. And then suddenly I'm in a studio surrounded by everyone else who's in their binary dress code, and I'm not. Like, I don't know exactly how to either A, deal with that, and B, present that to her in a way that will not make her uncomfortable, like she's somehow condoning the dress code is no longer an issue. So, I mean, we could go down a whole other rabbit hole discussing dress code in studios, but knowing that that's the reality, like where's the line between how I feel represented and how she feels comfortable within the realm of the rules she has set up for her studio. And I don't have the answer for that. I don't know where that's going to go.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a tough one. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any advice for people that might be struggling? Like even if there's not an answer yet, like do you have any advice for like how to maybe just start processing this even?
I think one of the things that's helped me is to kind of discuss it with other dancers, not just dancers from my studio, but dancers from New York, dancers from places, people that I know, and to find the support there. It's not that they've said, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. They've just been like, I understand. That helps to have somebody. My husband understands, you know. Um, I do feel like I'm going to need to discuss this with her. So I'm trying to figure out how best to do that because I don't want to waltz into a meeting with her and say, I'm non-binary and I need you to blah, 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 blah. So I think what I'll do probably, and I think what I would advise other people to do as well, is to just walk in there, explain to her what my situation is, and ask her how she would solve that problem. How, and not expect her to come up with an answer like that. You know, I know she's very open to things like this because, unfortunately, the minute we had this dancer come into our studio, she had apparently a lot of parents suddenly calling with concerns for their younger kids. And so she pulled me aside because I teach at the studio as well. I teach young kids. And she said, I just want you to know that if anybody comes up to you and discusses this with you, I would like our official statement is we'd like to refer you to our non-discrimination policy. And then she has that delineated on her website. So I'm like, okay, so I'm in that non-discrimination policy. I I belong there. So but again, you know, it's like every once in a while I've kind of snuck to the studio with black shoes. I wore black, you know, I haven't like really full on, but the thing that makes me uncomfortable about doing that without talking to her is that now it looks like I'm just flaunting the dress code. And I've had a couple people make comments like, "Oh, you're such a rebel." And I'm like, I'm not really not a rebel. I don't see myself as that. I'm just trying to like find something that feels comfortable to me. And I realized I don't want to be seen as that. That is not what I want to be seen as. I want to be seen as me, who I am, not somebody who flaunts something just because I'm an adult and you can't really tell me what to do because I'm paying to be here, you know. So anyway, so I guess I would just say conversations need to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, and kind of in like a similar or it's a slightly different track, but what intersections have you found between the LGBTQIA community and the dance community?
I mean, have I found in terms of like what have I seen or in my own studio or just in general?
Just in general, whatever that means to you.
I have found that very slowly the ballet binary is starting to stretch. And I mean slowly. Now, I think, we've had for a while several cool male dancers, dancing on point, but they don't get to do it like for real. I mean, James Whiteside, I don't know that he ever gets cast in any role that would require him to dance on point in a show. Um, but we do have a non-binary dancer at PNB who does. And so that was inspiring to me. And I think as far as I am aware, PNB is the only major company that has a non-binary dancer that they cast in non-binary roles. I mean, I've cast them in roles that could go either way. They've danced male roles, they've danced female roles on point. I don't know of any other company that does that yet. I don't know if you have heard, but at any rate, so I mean, for there to be one company out there that does that, I hope that would break boundaries for other companies. I'm really kind of surprised that it's taken this long, even for something like PNB. I really feel like it's really disappointing that it's taken this long for that to be a thing. But at any rate, at least it started. So I'd like to see the snowball roll faster than it's rolling currently, but I also think that it will. I know that there are um, women who they're either non-binary or they're trans or whatever that are being cast in roles, but I haven't seen anybody else be allowed to be on point when they're dancing roles that require point. So I guess I'd like to see that happen sooner. I was really pleased to see in our studio that we have more inclusivity. And also, I like to hear some of the older dancers tell everyone that, hey, you're going to be on point. This dancer that came into our studio, she's 50 and she has goals to be on point. And I'm like, you will. Like, if you want to be on point, there is no reason you can't be on point. And I have no doubt that my artistic director would be the one that would help her do that. So, so that would be super cool to see. I mean, I really live for that day. But I also would like to learn male jumps, male partnering. Like, I'm not very tall, but I'm really strong. And I can partner any of the younger girls, like, no problem. So, and we don't have a lot of men in our studio. In fact, we have 0 men in our studio right now. They kind of come and go. So I'm kind of like, volunteer right here as tribute. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, and just in closing, do you have any resources that you'd like to share with our audience, like books or articles or even an Instagram account or even just like a community that you want to share with our audience?
Um, yeah, let's see. Yes, I hadn't thought of that ahead of time. So let me just get my Instagram up real quick because then I can give them the actual Instagram thing. Sure that, okay, so sorry for a minute taking this. Okay, so I would say, so that the dancer that I was talking about at PNB is Ashton Edwards. You probably know them. So their account is Ashton Edwards 14, Edwards or Edwards 14. I would share that one because I look at them a lot and I just get definitely such a thrill out of that. And they're the ones that come to mind most. There are other non-binary dancers out there, but I just think that it's so cool. I think we need to really support the people that these larger companies also support because we need those companies to know that, hey, this is a good thing and this is the right direction. So But in terms of like just books or that websites, I don't. Um, Trying to think of what I just finished reading if I read it. All the ballet books that I read are like super old time books. Like, I'm reading books about Anna Pavlova because I'm writing a novel about her actually. I'm not reading a lot of the new stuff out there right now.
No, I love that though. That's so cool. Well, and even I think sharing Ashton's account is super important because like you said, I do think it's really important that we are really supporting the people that we want to see, you know,
Yeah,
in these
yeah.
companies. And I will never forget because Ashton actually used to be an ambassador for us.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and when we went to go see Ashton's debut show, I've been to PMB many times. It was the most diverse crowd of people I have
Oh
ever
wow.
seen at McCaw Hall,
That's
and it was really, really tremendous. And the energy in that room that night was phenomenal. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced there. So it's just better that way. And so I think we just have to
yeah.
we got to show up, and I think it's
We gotta
important. So
show
I,
up.
I think it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that that is the biggest thing that we can do. I mean, short of going out there, I mean, certainly going out there and becoming active in the change that we want to see is something I would always recommend. But even if you can do nothing more than support an Instagram account or just show up to a show where a dancer like that is, or send or comment on PNB's Instagram. You know, I've done that before where I've just commented my support for them because Peter Bowl reads that stuff, you know, and he's active. So, you know, you want to try and get to these people and say, this is a good thing that you're doing. And also occasionally I've said things like on San Francisco Ballet's Instagram, like, you know, you should see Ashton, da, 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 you know, like they have done a few things like that. They all know who, you know, but still, just to have, just to show that there's an awareness, even to the other people that might read those comments. So showing
Yep.
up
I love it. Showing up.
and,
Yeah.
you know, in that regard, showing up for myself too, and getting that conversation done. I'm going to wait till our recital is over this week when my artistic director becomes human again. Because right now she's not. You know how that goes. But
Totally get it. Yeah.
and then I will bring it up again. So
Oh, well, good luck with that. I hope it goes well. I'm sure it will go great.
thank you. I'm sure it will
Yeah.
too. And I
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time to do these interviews. I think that's super important. And I love that you guys are doing this. And I've been really looking at all of the people that you've been featuring, and
Yeah.
it makes me feel good that there's other support, you know, out there. And
Yeah. I know it's
yeah,
it's really fun just for me personally because I get to talk to all of these different people and hear all of their different stories, and it's just really incredible. It's very enriching for me. So thank you for
yeah, thank
spending
you.
time with me today and sharing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and big plug to you guys and your store just well. I just got fitted. I
Thank
went up
you.
there recently. I got fitted in some block, which I've never worn before. I
Oh,
think I might have tried them once or twice. I don't even know if I've tried them. But you know, I read about the Heritage and I was thinking, oh, Heritage and the Nicolay are kind of similar. Maybe I should. I was in
yeah.
Nicolay, maybe I should try her. Anyway, so I got fitted recently and the Heritage. I freaking love those shoes. They're
Oh,
just like
love that.
so lightweight, and I feel like I can dance. I can turn like I for the very first time ever, I'm starting to do doubles on point, and it's just like, oh my God, like when I'm on my leg, then these shoes are right there for me. They're like
I
fabulous.
love that so much for you.
So that was all thanks to you guys and your fitters,
Oh,
because I was like, I don't know if I would have gone and pulled those shoes myself. Like I just don't
yeah.
know if I would have, so or would have taken however long it did. So
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, sure.
Oh, well, awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me today. And we're gonna just wave goodbye to our, our followers and subscribers here. If you
Yeah.
like this video, please let us know. There'll be resources listed in the comments or in the description below, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. Appreciate it. Thank you.